Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Nat and Fizz show. Have you ever wondered how your muscles work? Well, wonder no more, because today we will show you exactly how it happens. Let's get into it. This is Fred, and Fred really wants to lift his weight with his arm. His brain will send an electrical signal to his arm called action potential. Action potential is the polarization inside of the individual motor neurons. This means the inside of the motor neurons will turn from negative to positive as the action potential shoots down the neuron. As the action potential gets close to the end of a neuron, aka the terminal, it will release the acetylcholine, also known as the ACH, from the vesicles that they are stored in within the neuron. This now free ACH will diffuse across the synaptic cleft and bind to the ACH receptors within the membrane of the muscle fiber, also known as the sarcolemma. Once they are bound, the ACH acts as a key to the ligand-gated protein it just bound to in the sarcolemma, allowing sodium ions to flood into the muscle fiber and letting potassium ions escape. This exchange of ions creates a new action potential within the muscle fiber itself, stimulating the terminal cisternae to release calcium ions within the muscle fiber. Once ACH has completed stimulating the new action potential, acetylcholinesterase, also known as ACHE, comes in and removes the ACH from the receptors, breaking it down and thereby stopping the impulse.
Whoa, that was a lot.
Oh, that was just the neuromuscular junction. Just wait until we get to muscle contraction. Speaking of which, let's look at that now. Muscle fibers are made of myofibrils, which are long lines of sarcomeres. The main players in the contraction cycle are the actin, the thin filament, and the myosin, the thick filament, within each sarcomere. On the myosin, there are tiny heads that pull on the actin. These are represented here by the purple dots at the end of each myosin filament. When these pull on the actin, the Z lines labeled here will come closer together and ultimately cause muscle contraction. But I think we should take a closer look and see how this really happens, chemicals and all. When the muscle is relaxed, the myosin head holds onto an adenosine diphosphate, ADP, and a phosphate group. At the same time, tropomyosin covers the active site, which is the site where the myosin head will hold onto when it is pulling, shown here by the large green brick along the actin strand. This means that the myosin heads can't bind to the actin, leaving the muscle relaxed. However, when calcium is released from the terminal cisternae thanks to your action potential from before, the calcium acts similarly to the ACH from before. The calcium ions bind to the troponin, which are proteins that act as the lock on the troponin, causing the tropomyosin to move out of the way, revealing the active site. The myosin heads then shoot up and attach to the active site on the actin. This forms the cross bridge between the actin and the myosin. The myosin head then bends inward, pulling the actin along the myosin, causing contraction. Once the muscle is contracted, free ATP molecules within the muscle fiber will then bind to the myosin head, allowing the head to release from the active site. While returning to its original state, ATP is broken down into ADP and phosphate. This leaves the myosin head fully recharged and ready to pull again. A separate side note, it's important to note that when one sarcomere is active, they will all be active. This is known as the all or none principle.
Okay, now that was seriously a lot.
Yeah, it really was, but if you watch this video enough, I'm sure you'll have it in no time. And look, Fred was able to lift the weight.
Yeah, whoa, he is really going crazy with that.
For real, but he has to be careful not to get a cramp.
How do cramps happen?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Cramps happen when there is not enough free ATP in the muscle fiber to allow the myosin heads to release from the actin. This keeps the muscle contracted until there is enough free ATP to allow the myosin heads to all be released. Because ATP is made in parts with water, it is important to stay hydrated when you're working your muscles.
Wow, I really learned a lot today. Thank you.
I'm glad to hear it. Make sure to tune in after the break to learn all about the circulatory system, and thanks for watching.